Hey there, rock and rollers. Today I'm going to review this record here, Totality Awesome, the new one from TBASA, in my basement, unscripted, low production value way. All right, so Totality Awesome. Is it Totality Awesome? Is it Totality Awful? Let's find out. Okay, he's peeking out behind me. Totality Awesome. I banged this at the gym the other day, the Bremerton Family YMCA, my spot. Yeah, so by the way, I've never been like really into like ear pods. I'm like a big fan of studio cans, so like I'm the one guy at the gym who's running around the track with, big pair of Sennheisers on or whatever. So yeah, that's how I listen to it. So, your whereabouts when you listen to a record affect your perception of it, but that's pretty much how I listen to everything right now since, I got two kids and I'm not home that often. So it's either that or in the car. So, anyways, let's talk about it. TBASA. Um, Tim, like me, has made all kinds of records. And past few years, I'm sure he's been more prolific than I have. I accidentally pressed play. This song slaps. I love this song. Like, I love the slide guitar and that kind of melody there. Anyways, Get Along Little Pagan. That's the name of that cut. Anyways, if I had to describe Tim's music to someone, like, I really like it. I don't like it when, people describe my music and they're like, I hear so and so. I hear some Elliott Smith here. I hear some Beach Boys, and then like sometimes people will get it like totally wrong. Like I hear some My Bloody Valentine, and like what? That's like a band I've heard of that I probably couldn't name a song they did. But and that doesn't do much credit to the musicians. So like if you want to play spot that influence, like I'm sure when you listen to Tim's music, you're gonna hear like the Pixies. You'll hear like a Beck-ish sensibility. Um, I'd say probably Modest Mouse, Jane's Addiction. Um, I would say there can be a lo-fi aesthetic about especially some of his older music that one could, compare to like Guided by Voices aesthetic wise, although I would say that none of his music has ever sounded anything like Guided by Voices. Um, but the thing, though, that describing music that way is you're gonna miss is that despite whatever his influences are, and oh, this reminds me of so and so, um, Tim has his own totally unique sensibility where, whatever genre he's doing and stuff, like you're gonna hear some kind of undescribable things or even describable things that are like his songwriting signature. So, for example, I mean, I would say that Tim is very much a fan of musical discordancy, where you have a chord and you're like, that's discordant, but it sounds hip, and I'm going to make it work in this song. And there are going to be, some music nerd types who will hear that and say, like, oh, well, that's a suspended fourth with a raised sixth, and then we got a suspended ninth on top, and then we're over, an F at the bottom and stuff. And I think if you look at music that way, you're kind of missing the point where, sometimes if I'm putting my hand somewhere on the fretboard, looking for a cool sounding chord, and I'm sure this is probably what Tim does too. It's just a matter of I'm gonna put my finger here. If I put my finger there, this sounds banging. Yeah, I like the way this sounds. I'm gonna, play a melody that comes to mind with this. It's not so much, well, I'm going to raise the ninth a scale degree, and then I'm going to, I don't think that's how good songwriters write songs. I mean, George Harrison actually talked about just moving his fingers in certain place and seeing how it sound, not like, oh, this is a 13th chord with a such and such. Anyways, I'm getting off on a on a deal here because I'm talking about how does this compare to other TBASA albums? Um, for starters, it is in the top tier of his records. And if I had to compare it to another record that he's made, since he's made a lot of records, I would say it probably, to me, sounds the most like, what was it? Don't Say Sucks. Love that album. And what, and the reason why that is, why I would say, you know, that that's the album that it reminds me the most of, is that it is a poppy, snappy, catchy album that's very much packaged in a certain way. And I think one misconception people have about uh, artists is that if they make an album like that, people assume that they're like looking for airplay or looking for commercial advancement and stuff like, oh, I'm going to take my creativity and I'm going to package it in a very packaged, presentable way. But no. As an artist, sometimes I feel like making an album that's poppy and snappy. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I feel like making something that's all weird and out there and unaccessible. But sometimes the creative juices just lead to a very like poppy and packaged album. Like, for example, I would say that like Queen's album News of the World is unusually packaged and poppy and like not a measure wasted. And I think that that's probably just what Freddie and Brian and the boys were feeling, Because, anyways, so like what is unique about this album? Like what is compared to other albums Tim's made? I would say we got a lot of slide guitar going on. We got some pulsating synths and stuff, programmed drums, and like if we listen to the song, something that I've noticed, it's a weird thing I notice about songs because long ago I was a DJ at Seattle's Z89.5, the nation's top high school dance music station. And something I learned as a DJ is that you pay attention to the number of seconds at the beginning of a song before the vocals come in, and it's like listed out on a chart when you're a DJ there. So the reason why you're mindful of that is because if you're a DJ, you want to think, is this a song where I can talk over the beginning of the song? And if so, how many seconds do I have to do that? So if it's a 30-second intro, you got a lot of time to, so, listeners in Radioland, how about those clowns in Congress? What a bunch of clowns, or whatever. Or if it's just an immediate intro, you can't talk over it, So, like, if I listen to this, like, it's on Totality Awesome, we got a lot of songs that kick into gear right away with vocals right from the start, which is cool. These are not slow-burning candles. These are songs that just knock you out right away. Let's listen to the first track here. Vocals come in about 2 seconds. Something like I was thinking about, Tim's unique sensibility, that is very much him. I would say that, like, not in this case. That's a very musical chord progression, doesn't have a lot of discordancy going on or anything. But Tim would, like, he often uses what I would think of as being, like, Modest Mouse type chord progressions. However, the melodies that come on top of them totally different. Modest Mouse, very staccato sensibility. Everything's like, it's like that. And Tim definitely leans more toward legato, and that's cool. There are some it's a thing. Some artists are very staccato. New wave artists, Talking Heads, that sort of thing, very, and then others are very more drawn out notes and such. Either way, it's cool. All right, let it go. Yeah, that's very much a Tim chord. I can't tell you what it is, but if I hear it, like, oh yeah, that's a Tim chord. Now this is great. I love the slide guitar and that the vocal line where you got a baritone thing going on where you kind of got a nice slide to it, where you got some, what do you call it? Portamento? Is that portamento? I think that's portamento. Yeah, I got portamento and glissando confused, but I'm pretty sure that's portamento. Yeah, get along, little pagan. Got some arpeggios there. Got some claps. See, we got vocals coming soon. Gets right to the point. Vocals come in right away again. So, yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I really like what's happening here with the cool chords, where a lot of times you got those low strings ringing through and stuff, and you got a nice chord progression, beautiful melody on top of it, and then you got your drum machine kicking in the background and stuff, and also gotta say, while this may, in spirit, be kind of like a return to Tim's lo-fi roots. I've got to say that it's really not lo-fi at all. Like, I think that, for one, the cost and effort needed to make a good, clear sounding album, it's really become more in reach with people that, when you're making music on a computer and stuff, it's easier to make music that isn't all lo-fi sounding, like when what you had was a Tascam, your 424 or whatever. And then also, I think, you know, Tim has gotten very good at mixing music in a way that doesn't have that rumbly, bass-heavy, muddy, lo-fi sound, but is very clear. I even noticed since I was, listening to the gym with a big pair of cans in my head, that excellent use of the stereo field, like the way that things dance around and are positioned in stereo, top notch. Um, and so, like, the DIY thing right now that's lo-fi in spirit actually doesn't really sound that lo-fi anymore. Like, if you actually want to make a lo-fi album now that sounds traditionally lo-fi, you have to actually spend more time and money. You have to get off your computer, you know, get out your rubbing alcohol, clear off the heads on your old 424. You have to buy some old blank cassettes on eBay. And then you're like, yeah, this is muddy. This sounds like I could have made it in 1988. If you really want to be authentic, get yourself a PZM mic, as were popular in the day. Not one of today's inexpensive, great sounding condenser mics from China or whatever. Um, but yeah, yeah, I gotta make another album myself, and like, I worry that if I were to just have a little bit of time and make an album right now, it would just kind of sound like records I'd already made. And something that I really appreciate about Tim's music is he never really makes the same album twice. So even though this one probably reminds me most of Don't Say Suck of his albums I've heard, it's not Don't Say Suck 2. It's a totally new album with new things going on. I don't know if I recall the cool slide guitar thing happening on previous albums. It's just a rockin' set of songs. The kids these days would say it's slay. Yeah, so Totality Awesome is Totality Slay. All right, I've got to get on it. I got to make myself a new record again one of these days. I got to keep up. And I think, what kind of album should that be? I actually kind of think of, like, what sort of album would I like to hear from Tim next? And this is like an album that I would like to make, but I don't have it in me, but I think that Tim probably does have it in me. I've been listening to Prince's Parade a lot lately. And Parade is, interestingly, it's like very percussion heavy, and the mix is weird. It's in your face percussion and vocals, and everything else is like very, very low in the mix. And it's a lot of fairly short songs that all run together, like kind of in the way of, like, I would say side two of Abbey Road, but also kind of like A Wizard of True Star by Todd Rundgren, fellow artist who like Tim and Prince and I and Stevie Wonder and Paul McCartney and stuff, often plays every instrument. But yeah, Tim, I would love to hear you make an album that is like Parade. And also, I mean, different Prince album, but Sign of the Times, love that album too. The opening song on the album, title track, I would love to hear Tim make a cover of it. I think that song is just made for Tim's voice. I think that, and I would love to hear, his approach to the arrangement, the background. Ba-dow, bow, 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 ba-dow, bow, and time. I think it would be. I think you could really take that somewhere cool. All right, Totality awesome.